I'm paying half sis's college tuition, BC. Her dad died, but she calls me a thief and smear posts me on FB. I revoke my offer and say, bye bye college. Hey Reddit, I'm a plumber who tried to do the right thing, paid my half sister's college tuition after her dad passed, thought I was being a good brother. Then she called me a thief and dragged my name through town. Before all that blew up, let me start from the beginning. Name's Jake Collins, 27 years old. Been a plumber since I was 19. Small town, about 15,000 people if you count the dogs. Most folks here already know what truck you drive and where you buy your coffee. My day starts early, usually around 6 a.m., with a half-cold thermos and boots that still smell like the job from yesterday. That morning was one of those bad ones. Middle of January, wind cutting right through my jacket, and I was lying belly down in a crawl space trying to clamp a burst copper line. Mud under my arms, flashlight slipping from my mouth, customer standing above me asking if I was almost done. Every plumber hates that line. I just said, almost, and kept working until the water stopped dripping. By the time I crawled out, my gloves were soaked. I tossed the broken fitting in the trash bucket, wiped my hands, and drove off in my old 2003 van, the one that rattled if you hit 40 miles per hour. Radio barely worked, but the static made me feel less alone. I stopped by the diner drive-thru for a sandwich that tasted like cardboard, but cost only $3. Same routine every day. Jobs, invoices, coffee that never stays hot long enough. When I got home that night, Mom's car was already in the parking lot behind my building. She doesn't come over much since Dad passed, so I knew it was something. She was sitting at my small kitchen table with papers spread out, college forms, envelopes, her reading glasses sitting crooked on her nose. My half-sister Lily was there too, phone in her hand, scrolling like she didn't want to be part of the talk. Mom looked up and said, Jake, we got a problem with Lily's tuition. Lily glanced up quick, then back down. I sat across from them, still in my work shirt, the company logo half faded. Mom handed me a letter from the college. It said her financial aid didn't cover everything, short by around $7,000 a year. Mom's been living mostly on survivor's benefits and a part-time job at the grocery store. That kind of gap might as well have been a mountain. I read the number again, rubbed my neck, and asked if they'd checked every option. Mom nodded, said she hated to even bring it up, but maybe I could help out a little. She said it soft, like she already knew how much I worked. I've been saving for a while, about $10,000 in a side account. Was planning to replace my van before it died for good, maybe even get my own license to start a one-man business. That idea had kept me going through the long jobs. But sitting there with Mom's tired eyes and Lily trying not to look guilty, it didn't feel right to say no. Lily started talking fast, saying she'd get a campus job and wouldn't be a burden. She just needed a start. I told her to slow down. I wasn't mad, just thinking through numbers in my head. Rent, gas, tool replacements, taxes. If I cut out some extras, no new boots this year, fewer takeout lunches, I could probably make it work. Finally, I said, all right, I'll cover what you need for tuition, but you're living here instead of the dorms, and you're working part-time. Deal? Her eyes lit up like I just handed her the keys to a car. Seriously? Yeah, deal. She hugged me quick, smelled like whatever shampoo was popular on TikTok. Mom looked relieved, said something about how proud Dad would have been. I leaned back and started laying out rules, trying to sound half serious. No random people over late. You clean up after yourself. My kitchen isn't a sorority house. Respect my early mornings. If I gotta crawl under a trailer at 7 a.m., I can't listen to music at 2 a.m. Don't touch the work tools in the hallway closet. That's my livelihood, not decoration. If you make more than $100 a week at your job, chip in for electric or groceries. Something. She nodded, still smiling, said, got it, boss. We talked a bit longer. Mom started rambling about how Lily's dad wanted her to go to college and how proud he'd be. I didn't say anything. Her dad was a decent man, but since he died, Mom's been juggling too much. Grief, bills, everything. I figured helping out was the least I could do. After they left, the house felt quiet again. I rinsed my hands, the smell of PVC glue still on them, and opened the drawer by my desk. Inside was a rolled-up sheet of paper. My someday plan. Rough sketch of a logo, list of licenses I'd need, tools to buy, cost for insurance, my own plumbing company. I'd been calling it Collins Plumbing in my head for months. Now, looking at that crumpled paper, it just felt far away. I rolled it back up and shoved it deep into the drawer. Told myself there's time for that later. Family first, right? That's what everyone says. I cleaned up the table, folded the leftover college papers into a neat pile, and checked my phone. 2 missed calls from customers, both about dripping faucets. Work never waits. Lily moved in on a Saturday morning. I'd just finished a drain clean-out job and smelled like bleach, but Mom said she was bringing the boxes early, so I didn't argue. My apartment's on the second floor of an old dentist office. The stairs creak, the fridge hums like it's alive, and the water pressure changes its mind every 5 minutes. It's not fancy, but the rent's fair, and the landlord leaves me alone. We carried boxes up those stairs one by one. Lily had way more stuff than I expected. 3 suitcases, a bin of shoes, a stack of framed pictures, and a whole tote just for makeup. I told her, "You realize this is a 2-bedroom, not a mansion, right?" She laughed and said, "I'm a girl. Deal with it." The spare room had been storage for years. I kept fittings, leftover pipe, and a busted water heater I meant to strip for copper. We shoved it to one side and set up her bed frame. I vacuumed while she wiped the windowsills. Every time I found something random, like an old thermostat cover, I'd hold it up and ask, "Souvenir?" She rolled her eyes but smiled anyway. By the time we finished, we were starving. I ordered cheap pizza and we ate on the floor because I only had one usable chair. The other chairs were shoved into the spare room with the boxes. She joked about me living like a bachelor, and I said, "I am one." She promised to buy another chair when she got her first paycheck. Sounded fine to me. The first week was mostly figuring out how to share space. I stuck sticky notes on the freezer. Laundry days, Tuesday and Friday. Pay electric. Don't touch wrench set. And by the end of the week, the fridge looked like a grocery store bulletin board. Groceries became a Sunday thing. She pushed the cart. I called out prices, pretending to be the world's cheapest accountant. Name brand cereal? You trying to bankrupt me already? She'd laugh and toss it in. At checkout, she paid for her snacks. I paid the rest. It worked. Her classes started Monday. The bus schedule was awful, so I drove her the first week, dropping her off on my way to service calls. I used those rides to teach her basic stuff. Oil, tire pressure, what dashboard lights mean. She said, "I'll just Google it." I told her Google won't change a tire in the rain. She rolled her eyes but listened. At first, things ran smooth. She left notes like, "Good luck today," or "Don't forget lunch." I started meal prepping Sundays, chicken, rice, sandwiches, to save more. I skipped Friday card games with coworkers, said I had early jobs. Mostly true, but also cheaper. About 3 weeks in, the small stuff started. She slept late on my early workdays, rushing around while I looked for clean socks. Dishes stacked up even though the sink was 2 steps away. Then she left her hair straightener plugged in once. I came home to the smell of hot plastic. I unplugged it and left a note. Next time, this could burn the place down. She texted a dozen sorries and a crying emoji. That night, we had our first argument. She said she felt like she couldn't do anything right. I said I wasn't asking for much, just basic stuff. I probably sounded harsher than I meant, but she apologized and offered to clean the kitchen. By morning, it was spotless, and she'd taped a truce note to the fridge. Later that week, the first tuition bill hit my inbox. I'd put the school on my payment plan, so the bill came to me. I opened it after a long shift and stared for a minute before hitting pay. Watching that much money vanish stung, but I pictured her walking across campus with a backpack, actually getting somewhere, and it felt okay. I printed the receipt and added it to the shoebox where I kept all the bills. That box was starting to get heavy. The next weekend, we did groceries again. She'd gotten her first paycheck from the campus bookstore and insisted on cooking dinner. Said she wanted to pay me back a little. I didn't argue. Free food is free food. She made spaghetti, burned the first garlic bread, and almost dropped the second one because she was laughing so hard. The smoke detector chirped. She waved a towel at it, and I just sat there grinning. The place finally smelled like something besides cleaning spray. After dinner, we watched a dumb competition show. People building stuff out of junk. We started betting which team would mess up next, yelling at the screen like idiots. For the first time since she'd moved in, the place didn't feel half empty. When the show ended, she said, "See, I can handle adult life." I said, "You're getting there." She threw a napkin at me and disappeared into her room, humming some song I didn't know. Everything felt balanced. Quiet. I thought about the money gone and the plans I'd put on hold. Didn't matter. She was doing fine, Mom was calmer, and the apartment finally felt like home again. Then I laughed because talking to an empty room's weird, but I still meant it. By mid-March, my old van sounded like it was dying. The transmission slipped, the doors rattled, and it smelled faintly of coolant no matter how many times I cleaned it. I'd been saving for months, hoping to buy something before it gave out completely. One Thursday, my coworker Pete mentioned a retired plumber, 2 towns over, selling his work van. Said it had been sitting in his driveway since he stopped taking jobs last fall. I called the guy during lunch and he said, "Come look at it if you're serious." That Saturday, I drove out with my tool bag and a flashlight. The van was an '09 Chevy, white, faded paint, rust near the wheels. Not pretty, but solid. The guy, Hank, came out in coveralls and handed me the keys. "Runs fine," he said. "Needs some brake pads, maybe an oil change. Engine's solid." I checked under the frame, lines, tires. Everything looked straight. Fired it up and it rumbled steady. I called Pete on video, showed him the engine. He said, "If it runs, buy it. You won't find better." Hank asked $8,000. I got him down to $7,500. He laughed, said, "You're the first guy who brought tools instead of excuses." The next day I handed him the cash, signed the papers, and drove home in my new van. Steering wheel rough, presets stuck on AM talk, but it felt like a big step. I was still on Marv's crew by day. Evenings and weekends were mine. I parked in front of my building, texted Mom a picture, and posted one in the local group. Finally got a real work van. Got a few thumbs up from people in town. Even Pete commented, "About time." Lily came home from class and shouted from the sidewalk, "No way! You actually bought it." She dropped her bag and ran over. I tossed her the keys. She started it, engine purred, and she grinned like she'd won the lottery. We decided to take it for a drive to the lake. The sun was out, sky clear. She stopped for fries on the way, and we ate them parked by the water. She talked about school. Psych class she liked, history class she didn't. I told her work was picking up again. People always start calling when spring hits. For a while, it was just quiet. Waves hitting the rocks, both of us staring at the water. I noticed her dad's old watch on her wrist. Thin leather strap, little scratch near the number 3. She caught me looking and said, "Dad gave it to me when I was 12. "Nice watch," I said. "It's probably older than both of us," she said, laughing. We sat there longer than planned. I don't take many breaks, but that one felt earned. On the drive back, my phone buzzed. Emergency call from a property manager I do jobs for. Leaking water heater, bad one. I told Lily I had to go and asked if she wanted to come along. She said sure, grabbed her jacket, and jumped back in. The place was a tiny one-bedroom. The heater's valve was cracked, water pooling on the floor pan. I drained it while Lily held the flashlight. She said, "You sound bossy," when I told her to keep it steady. I said, "That's foreman talk," and she rolled her eyes. We finished in under an hour. The tenant, an older lady, handed us cookies as thanks. Lily grinned. "You get paid in cookies? You're doing something right." By the time we got home, it was dark. I'd picked up a couple thrift store shelves earlier in the week, so we decided to set them up. She sorted screws while I drilled. One shelf went in my room for invoices, the other in hers for books. As she unpacked, I saw her take off the watch and place it in a small tray by her lamp. "Don't want to scratch it while studying," she said. I just nodded. Didn't think much of it then. Later that night, I sat at the kitchen table going through van papers. Title, insurance, maintenance list. Wrote down what it needed. Oil, wipers, better headlights. I'd fix one thing each paycheck. Lily came out for water and leaned on the counter. "Can't believe you finally got that van," she said. "You look like a real plumber now." "Guess I'm official," I told her. She smiled, yawned, and headed to her room. When I finally lay down, everything felt quiet. I looked over at the folded van receipt and the shoebox with tuition papers. Between the two, my savings were almost gone. Still, for the first time in a while, it felt like things were actually lining up. I set my alarm for 6, rolled over, and thought, maybe the timing's finally right. It started on a Thursday afternoon. I came home from work to find the apartment turned upside down. Drawers open, couch cushions on the floor, her laundry dumped out in a heap. Lily was kneeling by her desk, hair in a messy bun, eyes red. "Lose something?" I asked, setting my tool bag down. She didn't look up. "Dad's watch. I can't find it anywhere." I froze for a second. "The one with the leather strap? You had it on at the lake." "I know," she said, voice cracking. "I wore it every day after that. I must have taken it off before bed last night, but now it's gone." I started checking too. Under the couch, behind the nightstand, under the bed. Nothing. We tore the apartment apart for an hour, retracing steps, checking bags, pockets, every drawer. When I suggested maybe she left it at Mom's by accident, she snapped her head up. "No, I brought it. I remember." "All right," I said, keeping my voice calm. "Then maybe it fell behind the dresser or something. We'll find it." But the more we searched, the more frustrated she got. At one point, she just stopped and sat on the floor, staring at her empty wrist. I leaned against the doorway. You sure you didn't leave it in your backpack or at school? She muttered something too quiet to hear. What? I asked. She hesitated, then said louder, I said, you bought that van right after I moved in. I frowned. What's that supposed to mean? She looked at me, eyes watery but sharp. You said you were saving for years, but all of a sudden, not long after you bought that van, my watch is gone. The timing's weird. I blinked, trying to process that. You think I sold your dad's watch to buy my van? I didn't say that, she said quickly, standing up. You didn't have to, I said. She crossed her arms. It's weird timing, Jake. You've been tight with money since I got here. Then you just show up with a van out of nowhere. I rubbed my forehead. I've had money saved for months. Ask Mom. I told her about it. I got a deal from a retired plumber. That van's barely worth what I paid. She didn't answer, just stared past me like she was thinking hard. Lily, I said, quieter now. Do you seriously think I'd sell your dad's watch? She stayed silent. That silence hit harder than if she'd yelled. I finally said, I've got an early job tomorrow. Keep looking. Maybe you'll remember where you left it. I went to bed with that heavy feeling that something small had already broken between us. The next day started normal until lunchtime. Pete scrolled his phone at the job site and said, Hey, your sister's post blowing up in the community group. You see it? I stopped tightening the pipe. What post? He turned the screen toward me. There it was. Wild how some people pretend to help family, but steal what's not theirs. Some lessons hurt. No names, but everyone in this town knows everyone. Comments were already rolling in. Everything okay at home? Pete asked. Yeah, I lied, tightening the fitting a little too hard. When I got back to the shop, my boss, Marv, called me into his office. You straight on things? He asked. What things? He shrugged. Heard some talk. Just making sure there's no issues. I said, no issues. Just gossip. He nodded but didn't look convinced. By the time I left work, my phone had blown up. A couple of Lily's dad's relatives had texted, one calling me trash, another asking how I could steal from a dead man's kid. I didn't respond to any of them. When I got home, the apartment was quiet. Lily was at her desk pretending to study. I stood in the doorway. Nice post, I said. She didn't look up. It wasn't about you. Sure it wasn't, I said. Half the town thinks I'm running a pawn shop out of my toolbox now. You could have just told me where you sold it, she muttered. That stopped me cold. Are you serious right now? She finally looked at me, face flushed. I just want to know the truth. The truth is, I didn't touch your watch. I paid for that van with my savings and side jobs. You can call the guy I bought it from if you don't believe me. She didn't say anything for a long time. Then she whispered, Figure it out. That was it. No apology, no belief, nothing. That night I sat in the kitchen staring at my phone. Notifications from the post were still popping up. Some people defending me, most just stirring it more. Pete texted saying he told a few people it wasn't true, but gossip travels faster than proof around here. I checked the clock. Almost midnight. I could hear her in her room, probably messaging the same people who were talking about me. I wanted to yell, but I didn't. Instead, I walked to her door. Lily, I said, you've got people calling me a thief because you lost something. I can't fix that. No answer. Do you really think I pawned your dad's watch? I asked. Her voice came back, soft but sharp. I don't know, Jake. Maybe. That word sat heavy. Maybe. I stared at the closed door for a long time before walking away. The place looked normal. Sink empty, her note still on the fridge, but everything felt wrong now. My name was dirt online, my coworkers whispering, her dad's family calling me a thief. I stood there, hands still rough from the day's work, staring at the shut door to her room. Even if that watch showed up tomorrow, I knew something between us already got lost too, and I wasn't sure either of us would find it again. The Monday after that mess, work was slow. I was at the shop loading fittings when my phone buzzed with a message from a customer. Hey Jake, appreciate the estimate, but we're going with someone else. No reason, no follow-up, just that. I stared at it a minute. I'd done 3 jobs for that family last year, always paid on time. Then I remembered they were friends with Lily's aunt, the one who'd been posting under her Facebook post. I deleted the message and just stood there, trying not to let it tick me off. By lunchtime, another cancellation came through. This one said, We found another plumber. No explanation. I didn't need one. I called Lily. She didn't pick up. Sent her a text. We need to talk in person. No yelling. She answered a few minutes later. Stop pressuring me. You're making me feel unsafe. Unsafe. That word hit weird. I just stared at it. All I'd done was ask to talk. I called again, straight to voicemail. That evening, I drove to Mom's house to grab a box of fittings I'd stored in her garage. Mom opened the door before I even knocked. She looked tired. "Lily's here," she said quietly. "She told me you've been hard on her. You both need to calm down." "Hard on her?" I said. "Mom, she's got the whole town thinking I stole from her." Mom sighed and rubbed her forehead. "She's emotional, Jake. She lost her dad's watch." "She lost it," I said. "And somehow that means I get to be the town thief." Mom just said, "Give her time." I laughed once, not the funny kind. "Time for what? More posts?" She didn't answer, just gave me a sad look and handed me the box. I left before saying something I'd regret. On the drive home, my phone buzzed again. This time it was a number I didn't recognize. The message said, "You're lucky her dad isn't around to see what you did. Coward." Then another. "You better hope we don't see you around at the next town event." Her cousins. Had to be. I blocked both numbers. My hands were shaking, not from fear, just anger I couldn't get rid of. When I got home, Lily was in the living room, headphones on, pretending to study. I set the box down and said, "We're talking now." She looked up slowly. "I told you I don't want to argue." "Then don't," I said. "Just listen." I pulled out my folder with all my van papers and opened my laptop. These are my savings statements. This is the quote from the seller, the text thread, the receipt from the title office. You can read every word. She crossed her arms. "Jake, I'm not doing this." "Why not? You said you wanted truth. Here it is." She turned away. "I don't need to see it. It's not going to change how I felt when I thought it was gone." "Lily," I said, trying to keep my voice steady, "you don't get to accuse me in front of everyone and then say feelings make it fine." She stood up. "You're twisting my words. I never said you did it. You didn't have to. You let everyone else say it for you." Her voice went sharp. "You think I wanted this? You've made me miserable ever since I moved in. You act like I owe you for everything." I took a step back. "You do owe me, for respect at least, for the truth." Her jaw clenched. "You're overreacting." That word did it. "Overreacting?" I said quietly. "I lost jobs over this. People think I'm a thief. You've said nothing to stop it." She didn't look sorry, just tired. "I was stressed, okay? You don't get how it felt losing that watch. Stress doesn't give you a free pass to hang me in front of the whole town." For a minute, neither of us said anything. Then I pointed toward her room. "Pack your stuff." She froze. "What?" "I'm done," I said. "You don't get to call me a thief and still live here on my dime. You can go stay with Mom. And your tuition? I'm not paying another cent." Her eyes filled, but she didn't move. "You're serious?" "Completely." She started grabbing clothes, tossing them into a bag. Her hands were shaking. "I thought you'd understand I didn't mean it like that." I didn't say anything, just stood by the door while she packed. When she walked past me with her bag over her shoulder, she stopped. "You really think cutting me off fixes anything?" "No," I said, "but it stops me from getting used again." She wiped her face, mumbled something I didn't catch, and walked out. The sound of the door closing echoed through the apartment. I stood there a minute, then picked up her empty glass from the table and put it in the sink. The place was dead quiet again. Same as before she'd moved in, but heavier. I sat down beside my toolbox on the floor. For a few minutes, I just breathed, letting the silence settle. Then I pulled the laptop over, opened my email, and found the college's payment portal. Typed out a short message. "Please cancel future tuition payments for Lily Collins. Financial support has ended." Clicked send. I closed the laptop, set it on the floor, and stared at my hands. Same hands that fixed broken pipes and paid every bill, now shaking just a little. For the first time in months, I didn't know what I was fixing anymore. A week passed slower than any I could remember. Work was light, mostly faucet leaks and clogged drains. The kind of jobs that don't make you much money but keep your hands busy. That was fine with me. Quiet work beat quiet rooms. Everywhere I went, it felt like people were whispering. At the hardware store, I caught a guy from another crew giving me a look when I walked by the plumbing aisle. He didn't say anything, just nodded once like he already knew the story. At lunch, Pete sat across from me at the truck tailgate, chewing his sandwich. "You doing all right?" he asked finally. "Yeah," I said. He hesitated. "People been running their mouths. You know how this town is. But I told them you wouldn't steal a screwdriver, let alone a watch." I nodded. "Appreciate it." That was the longest conversation I had that day. On Friday evening, I got a call from Mom. I almost didn't answer, but I figured ignoring her would only make things worse. Her voice came through shaky. "Jake? You sitting down?" "Yeah, what's up?" "It's about the watch," she said. "Lily found it." I sat back in my chair. "Where?" "At your place," she said. "It slipped behind the nightstand and into that shoebox under her dresser." The special box she keeps. You two tore the room apart, but missed it. I rubbed the side of my face. So it was never at your house. Right, Mom said softly. She forgot she'd tucked it there. There was a long pause before I said, Okay, that's it? She asked. Yeah, that's it. She tried to explain how Lily was embarrassed, how she'd been crying all morning, how she didn't mean for things to go that far. I didn't respond. When she ran out of words, I just said, Thanks for letting me know, and hung up. I didn't feel relief, just tired. 2 days later, Lily texted, Can we talk in person? Please. I ignored it for a few hours, then told her to meet me in the apartment parking lot after work. She showed up right on time, standing near the van, hands stuffed in her hoodie pockets. She looked smaller than before, like she hadn't slept much. I'm sorry, she said right away. Mom told you? Yeah. I really thought I brought it, she said. I had so much stuff, I guess I packed it and forgot. Uh-huh. She twisted her fingers. I didn't mean for everyone to think you did something. I was just mad and stressed and... Stop, I said. Not loud, but enough to make her pause. You thought I'd sell your dad's memory for a used van. That's not stress, Lily. That's what you really believed about me. Her eyes went glassy. I didn't believe it. You did, I said. You posted it. Let people talk. Let them drag my name through the mud while I was out there fixing pipes to pay your tuition. You believed it. She wiped her face with her sleeve. I don't know why I said those things. I wasn't thinking straight. That part I believe, I said. For a while, neither of us said anything. Cars passed, people came and went, and we just stood there like strangers. Then she asked quietly, Does this mean you'll restart the tuition payments? I looked at her, wondering if she really thought things went back to normal that easy. No, I said. That deal's done. She looked stunned. But you know it wasn't your fault now. I always knew that, I said. You didn't. She didn't have a comeback for that. Just nodded slowly and said, Okay, like she finally understood something, but too late. I hope college goes well, I said, and started walking toward the stairs. She said something behind me, maybe another sorry, but I didn't turn around. The next morning, I checked my phone and saw a notification from the local community page. Someone had commented on an old post about me, the one with the watch rumors. A guy named Ron who lived near one of my rental clients wrote, Jake fixed my kitchen sink last winter for free when I couldn't afford it. He's good people. Y'all need to stop acting like gossip's proof. A few others liked it. Someone else chimed in saying they'd had me do work before and never had an issue. Comments still mixed, but the pile-on stopped. I didn't post anything myself, just left it alone. I changed my phone number that afternoon, mostly because I was sick of unknown calls, sent the new one only to regular clients, and Pete blocked 3 numbers I didn't recognize that had been sending messages since the whole thing blew up. By the time evening rolled around, I sat at the table and pulled my work planner closer. I flipped through the next week's jobs. 1 water heater install, 2 drain calls, 1 toilet replacement. Enough to keep busy. I wrote down replace van headlights in the margin. When I finished, I cleaned my tools, wiped the grease off each handle, and set them back in order. The smell of metal and cleaner filled the room. The fridge hummed, the heater kicked on, and for the first time in a while, it didn't feel like noise, just background. I didn't feel angry anymore. Not forgiven either, just done. I turned off the lights, checked the locks, and headed for bed. My knees popped as I climbed in, the same way they always did after a long week. Tomorrow I'd get up, drive the van, fix what needed fixing, and come home again. That was enough. 3 months passed. Work picked up again as the weather warmed. The van looked different now. Fresh shelves bolted in, bins labeled with marker, valves, washers, fittings. I even mounted a flashlight near the seat so I wouldn't have to dig for it. It wasn't fancy, but it finally felt like a real work truck. I'd landed a steady contract with a property manager, routine checks at rental homes. That contract was through me, not Marv. No chasing payments, no empty weeks. My days had a rhythm again. Coffee, gas station donut, van running by 6:30, first job by 7. Simple and steady, just how I liked it. Every Saturday, I stopped by Mom's place. Fixed whatever needed fixing, leaky faucets, porch lights, gutters. She always tried to pay me. I always refused. Afterward, we'd sit with her tea, talking about small stuff. We didn't mention Lily or the watch anymore. It was over. Lily texted every now and then. Short things like, got an A on my paper. Work added hours. Can you resend that budget sheet? I sent it. Columns for income, bills, savings. She replied with a simple, thanks, And that was that. Mom said she'd moved into an apartment near campus, splitting rent with a friend, working shifts at a cafe and the bookstore. She was paying her own way now. That was good. Then one Sunday in late June, I got a message. Hey, you home this weekend? Need a favor. She showed up that afternoon holding a small plastic watch case. Hair shorter, eyes calmer. It's Dad's watch, she said. I want to get it resized and cleaned. Thought you'd know where to go. I took it carefully. Same thin strap, same small scratch near the number 3. Mullins Jewelry does good work, I said. Could you take it for me? She asked. The owner kinda knows me. Sure, I said. She looked relieved. Thanks. I'm keeping it safe this time. Got a little case and everything. We stood there quietly. She noticed the van behind me, cleaner and more organized. You've been busy. Work steady, I said. You always say that, she smiled. It's true. She nodded, said thanks again, and left. The next morning, I dropped the watch off at Mullins. The jeweler, an older guy I'd fixed pipes for, nodded when I explained. We'll take care of it, he said. A few days later, I picked it up. Looked almost new. The scratch was still there, just smoother, like it belonged. The band had been replaced with a darker one that fit better. They hadn't made it perfect, just right. That evening, Lily came by after her cafe shift. I handed her the box. All fixed, I said. She opened it slowly. Looks good, she whispered. Then she looked up. You didn't have to. Didn't mind. Thank you. Really. Keep it in the case when you're not wearing it, I said. Apartments aren't safe for sentimental stuff. I will. She started to leave, then stopped. You were right, she said quietly. About everything. I should have trusted you. I nodded. It's done. We're good. She smiled a little. Yeah, we are. Then she left. After she was gone, I set the empty box on the counter and went back to sorting job slips for the week. 1 leak check, a garbage disposal, 2 inspections. That Friday, I was under a kitchen sink tightening a slow drain. The copper pipe glinted under my flashlight, corrosion just starting near the joint. I adjusted it until the threads lined up clean. The steady click of the wrench was a sound I'd grown to like. It meant control, precision, something fixed right. I turned the water back on. No leak. Marked fixed and sealed on the invoice. Before leaving, I looked around the quiet kitchen. Counters clean, water steady, no drip. I thought about what I'd told Lily months ago. You don't fix what's gone. You fix what's in front of you. Outside, the evening sun hit the van just right, glinting off the windshield. I leaned against the side, watching the light shift. That watch of hers was sitting clean in its case now. Still had the scratch, still told perfect time. Some things don't need replacing. They just need setting right once. I climbed into the van, started the engine, and said to myself, pipes don't lie. If you don't set them right, they seep. People too. Then I shifted into gear and headed to the next job. YouTube just dropped this new hype feature. If you're hooked on this story, smash that hype button. It tells YouTube this video deserves to blow up, and it keeps even crazier stories coming your way.